Teams get too comfortable with being mediocre. This has always been a problem in basically every major sport, but I feel like it's very prominent in the NBA. A mediocre team, in my mind at least, qualifies any team that is usually in the bottom half of the lottery or, all the way up to the 5 seed in the playoffs, but they never make it past the second round. Teams that exhibit this mediocre behavior include the Knicks, Raptors, Bulls, Pacers, Magic, Wizards, and the Trailblazers. All these teams might have had good seasons in the past few years, but at the same time, they've had no real success. Sure, the Trailblazers, you could say, but they just made it to the Western Conference Finals a few years ago. Okay, but are they going to make it back? Oh wait, didn't they get swept in the Western Conference Finals, or maybe just won one game? Oh wow, okay, so they're not doing shit, and they're just wasting Damian Lillard's career by not really making blockbuster moves. And the only team that, there's 2 teams that really have any sort of a shot in the next couple years, which are the Magic and the Pacers. And the Magic, I understand, are a young team, but over the last few years, this is the first year they've really tried in 2022 to 2023 with actually building a competent roster. Obviously, they're not really going to do shit this year, but within 5 years, Paolo and Franz Wagner could just be a dynamic duo, and they could actually do some shit. But, right now, they're not really like that, and over the past few years, they have not been like that. And with the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton is a really fun player to watch. I do believe that it's going to be interesting for the Pacers because they committed to not trading Miles Turner. I don't really know where they are on trading Buddy Hield, but if they give Tyrese another season to develop, they could be an okay team, but I don't really see them contending, so they should just blow it up. My viewpoint on this topic is a little skewed because I believe if a team doesn't have a real shot in making the championship, or at least making a run, then I don't know why they are okay with just being shitty. Obviously, their fans don't like it, and the only purpose it really serves of just being a mediocre team that's in the playoffs every year, but it's like the 5 to 10 seed, is just turning a profit for their owners. And from a basketball standpoint, that's obviously not the best thing. A few select teams have been able to blow it up really without being just absolutely shitty for multiple years and really come together and win a championship. These teams are the 22 Warriors, obviously, and the only reason I'm including the 22 Warriors in this is because they were pretty bad for 2 years. They had a lot of injuries, like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. KD left, and Draymond was the star of that team, and they obviously got Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman. And then they put a pretty good run together last year in the playoffs. They beat the Celtics 4-2. Another team which kind of contradicts my not being shitty for a couple of years was the 2020 Lakers. And I know this is kind of a contentious championship because it happened in the bubble, but I'm still including them because I count it. Well, the Lakers were horrible for about 8 years before this happened. And that was usually due to Kobe being injured and then just bad roster moves, not being able to develop talent. But then as soon as we blew up that roster with Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram, and traded for Anthony Davis and a couple veteran pieces, then the Lakers won the championship. And I think the best example of this in recent memory, at least, is the 2016 Cavs, because I think that blow up all started when LeBron left the Cavs. And obviously the Cavs offered him a contract, but they were going to consistently be, the 3rd or 4th seed, but they weren't really getting past the Celtics. So what did they do? LeBron left, went to Miami, won a couple rings, and then Kyrie Irving gets drafted because the Cavaliers are so terrible without LeBron. Then they pick up a couple random pieces here and there, like Tristan Thompson. And then LeBron comes back in 2015. J.R. Smith and Mon Shumpert come in, and then they create the best comeback in NBA history with the 3-1 down to win the championship. Which the formula really for rebuilding is obviously you need to draft well, you need to be able to develop talent, and you also need to hit on a couple key free agents. Or it helps when there are a few injuries that work in your favor, such as if Kevin Durant got injured, would the Raptors really have won their championship? I don't really think so. And also Klay Thompson getting injured, I don't know if the Raptors win even then. Even if KD goes down, if it's just, the normal Warriors team, they still probably win that championship. But because both of them go down, Curry can't do it all by himself. The developing talent side is obviously kind of hard, but it's a lot easier if you get some good veterans in. And those veterans don't even need to stay on the team all the way, like the entire life cycle of that team in its current form, because it could just be a couple good veterans that have been in the league for 12 plus years, a couple young players, they've been 2, 3, maybe even rookie years, and they just progress for 2 years and then they're ready for the championship. A good example of this is the Boston Celtics. I know they lost championship last year, but I feel like getting to the championship is good enough for most teams. But the Celtics, they were kind of mediocre for years and years, and they just kind of kept losing in the playoffs. But this last year, they kind of just dominated, and that's because they just let their young players really be as good as they are. Like Jason Tatum, they just gave him the ropes instead of trying to hold on to Kyrie, which is what you would have seen a lot of other teams try and do. Just like, oh, we got Kyrie Irving, Jason, you're the 2 option. No, trade Kyrie Irving and then just give the reins to Jason Tatum. One team that is currently trying to blow it up is the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, they won the championship, and I was just talking about that, but I feel like their blowing it up has taken a little bit too long, and they should have done it right after Kawhi left. Because before Kawhi showed up, the Raptors weren't doing shit. DeMar DeRozan, or as it's kind of known, his nickname, it's kind of cruel, but it's kind of funny at the same time, DeMar DeFrozen, and Kyle Lowry weren't really doing shit. They were kind of getting LeBrontoed, and it'll happen. It happens to a lot of teams, but he's just historically the best player to ever come into Toronto and just absolutely fuck everyone up. It didn't matter who they put him on. But Kawhi leaves, they keep it together, and are still mid. And then Siakam kind of regresses a little bit the year after Kawhi goes to the Clippers. And then people start losing faith. They lose a couple playoff series to teams that people thought were worse than them. And then Kyle Lowry gets traded to the Heat. And now Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby are on the trade block. And I think this is the best thing that could have happened to the Raptors. I think they should try and build around Scotty Barnes, because I know people are kind of roasting him right now for being not as good as he was in his rookie year, but it takes time for players to develop. It's not 2K, they're not just going to make jumps of like 5 overall in real life. But if Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby get traded this year, then there are good players in the draft, even though they'll probably end up getting probably a top 10 pick if they just blow it up, trade Fred VanVleet and OG, and maybe even trading Siakam wouldn't be the worst idea. And then just kind of having Scotty Barnes kind of be in like basketball hell for 2 years. Then they'll be right back like as a higher seed in the playoffs, especially in the East, because the East isn't really as good as it has been in the past few years. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about. Rebuilding teams need to pull the trigger more. It just needs to happen. But anyways, my name's Luke, and I'll see you guys later.